sometimes I get into modes where if like I'll see an article and I'll see like Jay-Z and I just put on Ether by Nas.
Yeah.
Just to feel like, yeah, that's what I think of this. But at one point he called Jay-Z, and I don't recognize, it's so funny how sometimes you just catch things years later, but he called him a stan to himself, saying like, you're a stan to me.
Yeah.
So it's like, how far back because I feel like in only the past 5-6 years, maybe just since the MGK and Eminem beef, did stan become part of the vernacular when referring to an Eminem fan. So I'm thinking, like, how far back does it date? We're in like the early 2000s, was that 2004, I would say, 2003, when Nas dissed Jay-Z, that they're referring to him. There's nothing better than two white guys on a couch talking Letterman style about the beef between Nas and Jay-Z. But
they were wildin'.
Yeah, they be wildin'. But how long ago has Stan been a thing? Do you even know that? Because I couldn't think back.
I think
it was as soon as the song came out.
There's a lot of things that are like said by rappers that become expressions like 10 years later. Because I think Ether came out shortly after the Marshall Mathers LP, which is the CD that Stan is on. And I think he might have been one of those first ones. And there's actually later on in the verse, he goes, Eminem murdered you on your own shit. So there's like a bit of a parallel there. But Sir Mix-a-Lot, I like Big Butts and I Cannot Lie. He uses the word simp in that song. And that song is from like 85 or something like that. You know, like that song came out before I was born. And I mean, I just became aware of the word simp like a few years ago. I know it's probably existed longer than that. Yeah. So yeah, it's kind of a weird thing.
It's funny you say that because I was just watching 16 Candles with my girlfriend. And at one point, whatever the things take place where, you know, the sister's not respected as the rest of them and blah, blah, blah. And so the parent goes to the brother with the sister in the room. We forgot your sister's birthday. And then he looks at her and goes, classic. And I'm like, they've been saying that since the 80s? Like, I was like, damn, I felt old. Yeah, but
classic. Yeah. And speaking of classics, I mean, the Marshall Mathers LP is a classic.
It is a classic.
But we had a conversation, this is years ago, but I remember it, because I ask everybody that's a stan what their favorite album is. And most people our age, early 30s, will say either the Marshall Mathers LP or the Eminem Show. People younger might say Relapse or Recovery. No one says Revival. But you said the Slim Shady LP. Yeah, thank you. It's just some mic control.
Oh, okay.
On my end.
On your end? Oh, it's funny because I was moving it the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah, Slim Shady LP is, to me, it's Slim Shady LP and what's the song? What's the fifth one?
If you say Infinite, I'm going to lose my mind.
No, Slim Shady LP, and I was listening to it on the way here because I wanted to get in tune with myself at that point. That it was pure, like what I felt like I was going through at the age of when I was listening to that, which probably was, I was only in third grade, but I had the angst of an 18-year-old, you know?
And, like, I also want to kill my ex-wife and dump her in Michigan Lake.
And rape my mom.
You're like, I don't even know what rape is, but
that
I know bitch gives me a bedtime.
Yeah, exactly. But all those songs, it probably actually kind of like it. I remember it helping me feel like, okay, cool, I feel this way about everyone around me too. Or it gave context to feelings that I shouldn't have by just filling in the blanks by the words that he was feeling. But that song, Brain Damage, is probably one of my favorite songs of all time. You know, I mean, it had all the classics that you'd want in there. I mean, you have My Name Is, Brain Damage, even his sad songs, Rock Bottom.
Dude, Rock Bottom. The first verse, I feel like I'm walking a tightrope without a Percocet. Or without a circus net, popping Percocet. I'm a nervous wreck. Dude, what if this is the whole podcast? Is anyone still listening?
You started, I finished the verse through. That's hilarious.
Yeah, but that describes, first of all, it's the only album where he talks about being poor.
Yeah.
because he obviously couldn't anymore. I mean, after that, he could talk about how he used to be poor. But those were the only songs where he's like, I'm broke and here's what it's like. And that's great.
I know, but he's like, I can still kill a bitch and I hate my mom. Which is, I think that's another thing too. I hated my mom when I was younger, and I was like, yeah, someone else feels this way too. It's such a child. I think that's what like helps you like kind of bond to it. It's just like, this guy is honest enough how he feels about his mother. I'm like, you're not supposed to love her. I think that he actually made me enemies with my mother. I probably didn't have a reason to be. And then I was just like, yeah. She also puts drug in my Cheerios. Never did that ever. made me breakfast, even helped pick out my clothes in the morning. And I was like, fuck this bitch, you know? Punching holes in the walls. It probably, honestly, as much as I love Eminem, I'm pretty sure that he ruined the relationship between me and my mother. If I'm honest.
Yeah. Well, he wrote an apology song to his mom, so maybe you gotta.
I know. I just sent it to her. I'm like, this
is how I feel.
We're cool now.
Yeah. That's but I think because people talk about his popularity when he first came out, and some of it, possibly even most of it, was like, here's a guy that's really great and he's white. And that is certainly part of it, but also the things he was rapping about. Like, I've never sold drugs, but I have been mad at my mom. You know what I mean? I've never been in a gang, but I have been heartbroken. You know what I mean? And there's other rappers that talk about personal stuff, but that was the first time where he was like, just this angsty, I'm angry, and it's unflattering. Like, the way he talks about himself is not flattering a lot of the time. He got into that braggadocious stuff later. You know, a lot of the new stuff, you know, the rappity rap stuff is like, I'm rich, I'm famous, I get pussy a lot of the time. But his early stuff was like, I'm not rich, I'm not famous, I'm tired of fucking the same blonde whore in the back of a Contour, you know. And I'm listening to that as a 12-year-old, and I'm like, I'm tired of fucking the same blonde whore in the back of a Contour.
Yeah, I couldn't relate to this more, honestly. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. I actually didn't have sex until much later, but you know, the listeners know what I mean.
But it's funny watching him. Like, he's obviously he might be even autistic to a degree too. Cause like, you ever watch him in interviews when people ask him a question, he kind of just raises his eyebrows and just looks off for a second. And I feel like in that moment, because of the way he is artistically, that when people ask him like, oh, how does it feel to be the best selling artist in this century? And when he hears words, he can't help but rhyme. Right in front of them, but he can't say it out loud, like the century, I'm gonna be pen to read, like whatever. And then he just pauses because you see him kind of fade out, and then he comes back in and he goes, good. You know, and that's why he's like a one-word dude. That's what makes me. But I think that's kind of makes him so fucking talented because, and only to the point that he kind of raps how he feels. I think he's like a comedian where he takes in the entire world, and it becomes like it's something he just chops up and puts into a thing. If I were to totally speculate with zero information and not knowing a man, just watching like 4 clips of him on ET and thinking that's who he is.